So I'm jumping on to do Tao of the day early today. I didn't expect to. I was just came to wisdom and I bopped around a bit and then I just said, "Oh, well, it's about 6 a.m. on the in Chicago. I'm currently on the East Coast, so it's 7 a.m. here, and I'm going to go ahead and do Tao of the Day. So if anybody wants to join me for Tao of the Day, come on up, pick a number between 1 and 81. That's all you got to do is pick a number between 1 and 81, and we will talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE, so it was written about 3,000 years ago, and it's still relevant today. And a large aspect of what we talk about here on Tao of the Day is how is it that you can live a more reasonable life. Um, Living a reasonable life is all about. And I just got a question that's at 81 with question marks around it. And 81 is because there are 81 chapters in the Tao Te Ching. And so if you pick any number between the Tao, between 1 and 81, you will receive a verse from the Tao. And every verse relates to living a more reasonable life. So whatever it is you're dealing with. Okay, someone picked number 3 and doesn't want to come up. So I'll read number 3 for you. But like this is a platform to have a conversation. So if you want to step up while I'm gonna go and show no markup here so I can read 3 as it is. If you want to step up and we can have a conversation about it. Number 3 is entitled Inspiring Strong People. Praising the status one can achieve will chastise those who don't achieve it. Praising the possession that can be owned will condemn those who don't own it. When nothing arouses competition, people will be at peace. The master leads by not defining status or possession. She weakens the ambition of those around her and toughens their resolve to be as they are. By individuals releasing their ambition, everything falls into place. So, as I was saying earlier, this idea of living a reasonable life. When we look at this verse, when we look at inspiring strong people, right, chapter 3 of the Tao Te Ching, praising the status one can achieve will chastise those who don't achieve it. We go around in the world today, and if we look at the world today, we look at all of the things that, you know, try to like we praise billionaires or we praise CEOs or we praise people who are, like digital nomads or we praise different people for different things. And different groups of people, of course, praise different types of people and different successes, quote unquote, right? Um, but when we praise the status when we praise the status that someone can achieve, what you're doing is you're you're looking at others that don't achieve that and you're putting them in a position of, even if they don't want to achieve that, to sometimes falsely want to achieve that. It's always surprised me when you ask somebody, well, what do you want? And everybody wants the same thing. I want a big house, or I want a big car, or I want this, or I want that. That moves on to our next line. Praising a possession that can be owned will condemn those who don't own it. To condemn them and chastise them, you you're putting on society, you're putting on different people um status, or you're putting on different people like uh, 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 achievements, or you're saying, look, this is where you should be if you want a good life. But a good life doesn't have anything to do with that. A good life is yours. Your life is good always. And um and when you get caught up in having a desire, because where does that desire come from? That desire comes from outside of you. If you just live your life, you will be content with who you are, where you are, how you are, and all of that. There is no lack in your life. There is no need for the answer to be present always. When nothing arouses competition, people will be at peace. And once again, this is a 3,000-year-old text. So anything written in the last, 10, 100, 10, 15, 30, 50, 100 years, really can't hold a candle to this because those things are being written already under the influence of so much other stuff. This text, which is 3,000 years old, has less influence and more observation, right? This is observing life from a very simple sort of space. And of course, we did have cultivation and other things 3,000 years ago. 3,000 years ago, we started cultivating chickens and other things like that. And so there is some influence here, but there is this space of being very open and natural and very at one with oneself. So when nothing arouses competition, when you don't want to compete with another person, and when you don't arouse competition in others, then everything will be at peace. Then everybody is going about their business, not the business of others, right? Like business people want you to be in business and they want to sell you their thoughts on business because they think they're selling you the idea that if you achieve a certain status in business, if you earn a certain amount of money in business, or if you earn a certain amount of money in your life, then you will be happy. And so what they are doing is they are sowing discord and they are sowing competition. Now you can compete with another person to have a thing. Now you can compete with another person to have a status, but not everybody can be a CEO. Not everybody can have, like, I don't know, a brand new Range Rover, right? That's not possible. Not everybody wants those things, but if you sow in their hearts the desire for those things or the desire to compete for those things, then you're not. So the title of this, like I said earlier, is Inspiring Strong People. Those When you do that, you make people weaker, and the peace is not at the peace is no longer a part of their lives. Now they are living under the influence of that status. They're living under the influence of that possession. They under the influence of the desire for those things, under the influence the desire to compete for those things. The master leads by not defining status or possession. She weakens the ambition of those around her, which toughens their resolve to be as they are. See, and this is how the master works, right? The master, and this is how the Tao describes someone who is in line with Tao, is they are a master. So the master leads by not defining status or possession. You own something, great. You have a certain status, great. Like whatever. Like none of that matters. The president is no more important than the bag boy at your grocer. Right? And I use that because I was a bag boy at a grocer. There was a time. And nobody has a higher status, right? There's no manager that's higher than you. There's nobody that you look to, and there's no reason to aspire to be anything else. You're a bag boy, and this is what you're doing right now. That doesn't mean that that's all you're going to do, but this is where you are now. You don't have desire for anything more, and if you move into a position that is, gets you paid more, gets you to do more, whatever, that's all fine too. Either way, you're good with where you are. Why? Because when the master can weaken the ambition of those around her, and it says here, she weakens the ambition of those around her, which toughens their resolve to be as they are. And the person who chose this number, like, my question is, well, is there some sort of ambition or desire that maybe you have that is sowing discord in your life? Maybe. I don't know what's going on with you, of course, but like this is your number, and so we want to look at this number and say, oh well, how does this relate to what I need to hear right now? The master leads by not defining status or possession. Imagine if you had children and you just allow them to be as they are completely without worrying about their education. Like, of course, you send them to school and you do the things and whatever, and they get to experience their life as they are. And no matter how much you try and push somebody who is not interested in the intellect, they're always going to end up where they are, and if you're the one that's constantly wanting them, right, like have a desire for them to be somewhere else, well, that's going to be a constant battle for you. Constant. Because they're not interested in it. And if they're not interested in it, what's it to you? I understand, like parents do think that they have, there's a mandate to make sure that their kids are successful, but their kids are successful. They're alive and they're here. That's valid. That's enough. And they don't have to achieve anything in order to be enough. And it's sad when we have parents that think that that needs to happen in order for them to be enough. Because sometimes that gets misconstrued as like, I'm not going to love you unless you have this going on in your life. And so that's the thing, passing down all of this status. We praise a status one can achieve. So then we want our children to achieve it. We praise possessions that can be owned. And so we want our children to own it. And then we put the pressure on them if it wasn't there already. And we put it on ourselves and then just pass it on to the next generation. Why? Because we saw our parents, or we saw on the television, or we saw in social media that lots of followers, lots of money, lots of all of these things was being praised, and everyone was telling us, do you want more followers? And, well, do I want more of these things, or is it just I'm being drawn to that because it's being praised by other people? And I think that that's gonna solve my problems. The last line in this third chapter of the Tao is, by individuals releasing their ambition, everything falls into place. I remember one time someone asked me when they picked this number, well, is all ambition bad? And I had to stop and say, okay, well, we're not going to talk good and bad. Because no, it's not bad. But if you can release your ambition, then you will be content with where you are. And you won't be looking out at the world and saying, I'm going to achieve this thing. Because achieving this thing, whether it's a possession or a status, achieving that thing, like why do you want to achieve it? I don't know of a single reason someone would say my soul wants to achieve a thing. Maybe you are moving towards something and your soul is guiding you through something, but your soul is not telling you that you want to achieve something. Your soul is saying that let's do this. Let's be present with this. Let's, recently I've been just observing myself, observing what I do, observing how I move, observing different aspects of my day. And in the observation of it, as I observe, my actions are different than they would have been if I just acted as I thought I should. And that's where differences come, right? Like when we have something that we want to achieve, we pretend to know everything, right? We pretend to know what's possible, but all we know is what we've already experienced. And so don't get so caught up in what you want to achieve, in like ambition of getting somewhere, because everything might change. And if you just let yourself be as you are, without being under the influence of status or under the influence of possessions, if you find yourself not under the influence of status or possessions, then you will find that you don't have to achieve anything. You're just here living your life. And this life is yours completely. This is the life you've been given. And what are you doing with it? Are you taking what other people say and matching that up with your life? What are you taking some traumatic experience that you had as a child and allowing that to dictate what you want to achieve in your life, what you want to have, while all the time telling yourself it's for someone else, right? So you can justify it. So it's like, oh, I'm earning all this money so I can, protect my family. I'm earning all this money so I can help the poor, or I can. When are you going to be you? And that's one of the most important things. When you can be you and stop thinking that you're you have you have to achieve something, and you can recognize that whether you achieve anything in your life or not, you are still valid and you are still perfect. And trust me, if you stop trying to achieve things, you'll achieve a lot more. It's when you focus on that one thing that you end up only achieving that thing. And how important is that thing, that one thing that you wanted? The world is full of things, and you are here to present as part of it and to inspire all of it. Julie's going to join me. So that's number 3. Thank you so much for that. Oh, that's Kim. Oh, Kim. I didn't know who that was talking to me. I was just seeing it. But Kim, thank you so much for picking 3. I hope that makes sense. Julie, how are you, dear? Did I miss you?
I'm good. Don't know. Did you miss me?
No. I'm always missing you.
Good. Right. So we are. First of all, I want to ask you how's your house? How's it going?
It just smells like van, I think.
It's going well. I'm in, and
Yeah.
I have a great neighbor, and there's work to be done, and I'm doing it, and it's all so much right now.
Ticking
So
along.
yeah,
Good.
it's
Good.
just like it is. The walls are standing, and we have a big snowstorm coming in. But I am currently in Virginia, at my
Yeah.
sister's, so I will see how the house stood when I get home
How
after
it
Christmas.
withstands the storm.
Well, that's right. That's right. I have
It's its
insurance, so
first
if it
test.
doesn't withstand the storm, I'm okay.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Right. And today you've got me. You've got Brad, you've got Tracy, you've got Claire,
Oh my
and you've
God.
got Georgie and Willow the dog. And I've asked everyone what number they would like you to read with us, and it is number 13.
I didn't get a choice.
Oh, Claire said she didn't get a choice. Guess who Claire is? Claire is my daughter. And Tracy is a beautiful wife, and it was their first wedding anniversary yesterday.
Well, happy anniversary. I have seen your both of you on the Instagram, and I'm so grateful to be in this circle with you.
Yeah, you are our bro, man. You're our Martin John. There's only one.
There is
And you're
only
it.
one. That is absolutely true. So you guys, as a group, are choosing 13.
Yeah, we're group 13 in with
All right.
Martin
Well,
John.
then this is a little longer, but the title of this is Finding Equality at the Extremes.
Good
So
work.
this states, to succeed and to fail are equally undesirable. Creation and destruction are equally present within us. What do I mean by to succeed and to fail are equally undesirable? The more success you have, the more you protect it by hiding failure. The
Mm.
more you associate with failure, the more you embody it. When
Mm-hmm.
neither success nor failure is identified as the destination, being becomes the objective. And we can talk about that as it relates to relationships, especially on the day after such a beautiful anniversary. What do I mean by creation and destruction are equally present within us? Having a body and mind with which I identify gets me involved in the manifestation. The manifestation convinces me of my actions, and so, naming them, I both create and destroy, neither of which are unique. We'll go over that more later. But to see yourself with indifference, you will have faith in all things. To see the world with indifference, you will be able to care for all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, any initial thoughts or anything you want me to go over before we start breaking it down?
That's balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really. There's a balance to everything. Black, white.
Mm. All the colours in between.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Balance is what Tracy says.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, as we look at, like this is a really nice one because the extremes are the same. That's what this is like when you
Yeah.
go like, and so staying in the middle, keeping it balanced, keeping yourself focused. It's like it's oftentimes when we talk, we did talk about success and failure. It's oftentimes you can be in a really big high when you have a success and you can get really low when you have failure. Well, if they're the same, well then just stay in the middle. It's like
Yeah.
don't allow success to get the better of you and don't allow failure to get the better of you.
Yeah.
If
Then
your
you're not going
relationship,
down. A good example is that is when you lot. When they went on their honeymoon recently, Tracy and Claire, and they had a wonderful time. And then when they got back, suddenly everything was back to responsibility, back to being
hmm
more than just the couple that they are. That
yeah,
was a big shock. You could definitely
yeah,
feel that. Yeah. So
everybody's happy on vacation, right?
yeah, yeah,
and and
absolutely.
and and you lose sight of the reality of things.
Yeah,
You lose sight of the joy of the struggle.
The
You
responsibility.
yeah,
Yes, the responsibility. And you know how good it feels to be responsible for your relationship?
yeah, and the
How good
strength
it
you
feels to
have.
be responsible to yourself in a relationship.
Yeah,
That feels so good, and that is something that we can really build on. And yet, when we're on vacation together, we can just be served. And then all of this stuff goes away, all of this hard work, and all of the, and really, it's within those struggles that success exists. And then when
yeah,
we look at this, what do I mean by to succeed and fail are equally undesirable? The more you succeed, the more you have to protect it by hiding failure. Even when you're on vacation, if you feel, I don't feel so connected today, you can hide that behind a free mimosa.
yes. Lovely put. That is a great way to put.
You can hide that behind a trip to the pool or
Yeah,
by reading your book. It's like, oh, I'm just going to read this afternoon. Actually, I'm not feeling connected to you, but I don't have to address that because we're on vacation and I'm just reading. Well, if
yeah,
you do that at home and you do that when things aren't as, when you're embodying failure, right? You start to embody it and you start to resent, and then things start coming up and people start calling you on your shit, and as soon as they do that, you start to get defensive.
yeah, yeah. Been there
So
myself. Done
success
that.
and failure neither success nor failure, when neither success nor failure is identified as the destination, you don't have to be there. That doesn't have to be what you have right now. It's not, this relationship isn't success or failure, it's relationship.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
being becomes the objective. Being in relation becomes the objective. It's no longer about what the relationship is, it's that the relationship is.
Mm. Yeah. It's like recently, me and Brad, we've been really kind of struggling materialistically. We've been struggling with stuff, but we've managed. And I've felt that I've had to be extremely strong, extremely reliable, extremely putting a lot in. And then I
Hmm.
came across a point where I just didn't want to be strong. I was fed up of being strong. Why
Yeah,
should I be strong?
absolutely.
And I just accepted that and went, well, you don't have to be, but if you look at it, it's working. It's working.
Yeah, and you don't have to be strong. And the thing
No.
is if we look at strength and weakness here in place of success and failure,
Yes.
there's no difference.
There isn't.
And when there's no difference, like a lot of people want to be strong because weak has a
It's
negative
connotations.
connotation,
Yes.
right? People are like, well, you don't want to be weak, you don't want to be small, you don't want to. It's just like, well, why not?
Yeah, why not?
I
Well,
mean, I
I decided
remember, I
solid.
remember, like there was a time when I was at this men's group, and everyone was like, everyone had to pick a spirit animal and stuff, and I picked a squirrel because
Yeah,
everybody
did.
else was picking bears and lions
Yeah.
and panthers and all of these, like, and I was like, fuck you all. Like like
I'm going for squirrel.
like I was very much in this space of like, you all want to be big, you all want to have, and it's all the same, it's all coming from some external thing.
Yeah. To be
You
seen as.
Right. And
Mm,
so, and I picked a squirrel, and a squirrel was great for me because, like, I even recognized that squirrels were part of my life my whole life. I mean,
mm.
I grew up in a city, and so squirrels were one of the things that were around. It was the only wildlife I knew. The first time I saw a rabbit in the wild, which was in the suburbs, I literally imagined that it had escaped from a zoo.
Wow.
you know and so a squirrel was a really, like, a really powerful choice for me. And it was like me thumbing the concept of everybody else, like, I want to be an eagle and I want to be a this. I was just like, man, you
Squirrel,
people are
mate.
all like, you're influenced by something external from you. You haven't
Yeah.
looked inside.
We think the squirrel choice was absolutely brilliant, personally.
Yeah, I think
They're
so.
curious, friendly, they think
Hmm.
in advance, they're
They plant
fast,
seeds.
they're good looking. I mean,
They always forget where they bury their nuts as
they
well.
always forget where they bury their nuts, which is a good
Yeah,
thing.
but they forget where they bury their nuts, which also is how they plant seeds. And
Yeah,
they
Yeah.
plant seeds, they plant those nut trees
Mm.
without the intent, um, of they're planting trees
intent.
without the ego of being like, I'm planting trees. It's more
Yeah,
like, no, I'm doing this for myself. And what ends up happening is, it
happens.
generations down the line, it is feeding more squirrels and more people.
Yeah,
And so I found out that, yes, indeed, the squirrel is a perfect choice for me.
yeah. You're a great nut planter.
So this continues to say, what do I mean by creation and destruction are equally present within us? Having a body and mind with which we identify gets us involved in the manifestation. The manifestation convinces me of my actions, And so naming them, I both create and destroy. So what that's saying is having a body and mind by being in the manifestation. And once I identify with that body and mind, I tend to look at my ego.
Yeah.
And by looking at my ego convinces me that my actions are my own and that they're not coming from somewhere else.
Mm.
And so what ends up happening is I create by actually being inspired by Tao to do something like you guys took your trip. You were
Mm.
inspired to do that, but it wasn't you. So you destroyed if it was your ego that was
Mm.
rolling along, you destroy the connection while actually creating through Tao. And so that's what this is saying. Does that make
Mm.
sense? We get caught up in the
Yeah.
idea that we're doing this, that we're doing this life, that we're doing this living.
Yeah.
We're just being inspired to live. And if
Yeah.
we could step back and just observe, our life would unfold just so much easier. And
Yeah, we'd
that's where this,
probably notice more as well if we
that's
weren't
right,
trying so hard.
right.
We weren't
We
believing
notice,
that we were creating, then we would notice what is actually there.
right,
Whether and we wouldn't give it any kind of judgment either. We wouldn't say it's good or it's bad. So then we wouldn't be failure or success. It would just be.
right. And that's how this wraps up. To see yourself with indifference, you
Mm.
have faith in all things. To see the world with indifference, you will be able to care for it all. That indifference is that stepping back and observing
Mm.
and not taking credit, not being like, this is my success, this is my work, this is just my life, this is what I'm experiencing, what I observe.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh, I love you all. Thank you.
We've enjoyed our powwow.
I'm glad. I'm so glad. Oh, to everybody out there, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys coming by, and I hope that was helpful, and I hope it was something that you guys can, you know, quote unquote meditate on today. Just kind of keep with you, and really recognize that it's not our ego that is living this life, right? If we didn't think about so much and take so much credit and do all of this, like our lives would unfold anyway. Like I was saying earlier, it's like I've been doing this observing of myself. I've been doing this observing of how I am and the movements I make. Like literally, like how do I move in the morning? Like one day I woke up and I just didn't want to get into being Martin John. I just wanted to be there as I was. And as I was sitting there, as I was just able to be present in my bed without being Martin John, without having any identity, I just observed my body. And I sat up and I turned over and I went into child's pose just naturally. I didn't think about it. I just observed it. And I went into that pose and I was like, "Oh, look at me." I was like, "Look at this." And as soon as that happened, like Martin John started coming back in, and that's the ego, and that's who I am, and like that's identified with like being a masculine person or being a feminine male or whatever, however, like that it has all of my identity associated with it. And it's just like, oh, put that at bay, try and keep that at bay, and just observe. And I'm getting slowly getting better and better at being like, oh, I'm not observing. I'm being, like I'm being from my ego. I'm not being present with who I am. And that's so much of what we talked about today in 3 and 13. Um, of identifying with what's going on around you, identifying with all of the external stuff, As we identify with those things, we start to really hold ourselves in a box. Because if you identify with something, it's something that you can identify with, which means it is within your grasp of understanding. But there's so much more you don't understand than you do. And so when you can let yourself just observe, you can experience more, because you're not telling yourself this experience is associated with with something that I already understand. It's no longer like that. Now it's when you can just observe, when you can simply observe what's happening with your body rather than making a choice. That's when we hear, can you be still until the mud settles? You know, um, I'm looking for that verse now. Is that 15? Yeah. Can you be still, adding nothing until the mud settles, and it gives you the opportunity to see clearly. And that's observing. Being still, adding nothing until the mud settles so you can see clearly. Can you be still until on its own accord the next action presents itself to you? So this is coming from chapter 15, Ancient Tao. Can you be still, adding nothing until mud settles, and it gives you the opportunity to see clearly? Can you be still until, on its own accord, the next action presents itself to you? Right? Because that's the thing. You're not doing this living. Your ego wants to tell you it's you. But that's what we were reading in 13, that it's not you, right? What do I mean by creation and destruction are equally present within us? And that's your actions. This is talking about your actions in your life. Having a body and mind with which I identify. Once you identify with you are a good person, you are a bad person, you are this, you are that, you are masculine, you are feminine, you are anything like that. Once you have a body and mind in which you identify, gets you involved in the manifestation. You start dealing with the manifestation. And the manifestation is just a sliver of what is accessible to you through the universe and through intuition, or however you want to look at it. The manifestation convinces me of my actions, convinces me that these actions are mine, convinces me that my actions are coming from me, my ego. The manifestation convinces me of my actions. And so, naming them, I both create and destroy, right? I create this action because I'm actually being inspired to do this, right? I am connected to Tao, inspired, and taking this action. But I destroy the connection to the whole. This is why I talk a lot about, like, don't say why you've done something. Don't say why you're sad. Don't say why you're angry. Don't say why. Because if you say why, then you're looking to manifestation and saying, this is real. If you allow yourself the space to just be angry, be sad, inspired to do something without saying, I wanted to do this because you don't know exactly why you're doing something. You convince yourself that you know why you're doing something, but you don't know exactly why. It could be Mars affecting you in some way. It could be, a past life. It could be any sort of number of things. But when we reduce something to a why, what we do is we say, we understand, and this is it. And then we're the victim of that. But if we can just observe it, let it be as it is, and say, I'm sad today. Sure, it could have something to do with the fact that, like, me and my partner broke up, or whatever, like, whatever recently happened. Or, like, if you're like, if you go on vacation, like we were talking earlier about, um, I know it's Tracy, and I forget Tracy's partner's name, and I apologize. Um, Tracy and her partner, when they went on vacation, everything was great, and then they came back, and they're just like, "Oh, you're upsetting me because of da da da." And it's like, actually, it might have to do with the fact that you just got back from the vacation, and like now there's new things that you have to deal with and stuff. It might not have anything to do with what you think it is. And the moment you say why, I always like to say you can't unring a bell. Once you say why, then you're the victim of that why, and someone feels like they might be victimizing you, and now the argument can escalate because you have reduced it to something. You're being sad or angry or frustrated or whatever. It doesn't have anything to do with, it might have some little thing to do with something, but it's you. And if you can just observe it rather than identify it, rather than being convinced of your actions, right? The manifestation convinces me of my actions. The manifestation convinces me that it is you that's frustrating me because you're chewing your gum too loud, But actually, it might be something completely different. But the manifestation of that chewing gum, like, oh, that chewing gum is upsetting me. Well, actually, you might be upset and you just need the chewing gum to bring it out. Need that person who's chewing gum like a cow or whatever to bring that out so that you can observe it. So sit back, observe it. Don't add anything. Don't reduce this moment to something that you can conceive of, because if you do that, then you're just giving up on the whole that you are, the wholeness that you carry, and you're reverting to something you can comprehend. And if you've been alive long enough, you'll know you cannot comprehend everything. Thank you guys so much. Claire, thank you, Julie. I appreciate that. And Kim Bellis, thank you so much for coming out and picking a number. I really appreciate that. So Kim and Julie, I think you guys would appreciate each other as well if you run across each other on here. Kim Bellis and truly Julie, thank you both for joining me. This is Martin John. I am the... Oh, I have somebody. Johnny's going to join me. Johnny, how have you been? It's always great to have these conversations. How's it going,
Hi,
Johnny?
Martin. Yeah, it's good, thank you. I'm sorry. I joined a bit late, so I don't know how long you've been going. It sounded like you were
No.
just wrap up there. So,
Well, I
I,
didn't, no one was here, and I don't, like, I like these as conversations. Talking to myself is great. And I do have a lot to say, but I don't know. I've been on for about 40 minutes, and I'm open. So
okay.
no apologies. No
Well,
apologies.
wonderful, thank you. So I was listening to what you were saying, and I didn't want to interrupt. And I always find your although the conversations are great, but I don't know if but I like it when you speak as well in between guests, because it as it's very inspired. So I really appreciate that too.
Yeah,
I,
I can see that. Thank you.
I wanted to congratulate you on your 22 years, I think,
Oh,
which just recently.
yeah, it was on the 14th.
Oh, okay. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, congrats on that. And I found you were talking about squirrels earlier, which I thought was really um, I was quite intrigued by. I've just as a little side note, I've just I know I've come to know a young girl who feeds squirrels at the moment, and she's an artist, and she's kind of really opened my eyes to sort of the beauty of squirrels and sort of nature, and just how in sync squirrels are with nature. And like you, I live in the city, so there's not a lot of wildlife around.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I've just recently gone out and bought some walnuts so that I can feed the squirrels, and yeah, just
Like I live in Chicago, and Chicago has a free zoo, Lincoln Park Zoo. It's a great
Yeah.
zoo. It's a zoo that has been um, in the background of my life my whole life. And this is, I mentioned earlier, seeing a rabbit out in the wild in the suburbs of Chicago when when we were visiting a friend for, like having a little barbecue or something. And I was like, "Oh my God." And I told my mom that must have escaped from the zoo. And she was like, "No, there are rabbits out here." And I was like, "What?" Like blew my mind. But
Yeah.
there was a time when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I was in my addiction and early recovery, and in my mid 20s, when I would go to the zoo, like because it was a free zoo, it was just a park. You'd be able to run through the park 24 hours a day.
Mm.
You know, and they now have gates and stuff on it. But I used to go like early in the morning, like before sunrise, with like nuts, and I would just sit by the flamingos, where in Lincoln Park Zoo, if you know it, I mean you don't, but
Mm.
you may not, but and I would feed squirrels, and there was a time where I was doing that so regularly that as I would enter the park, the squirrels would start following me.
I can quite appreciate that, and that's lovely actually. Yeah, especially to go in at dawn and when nobody else is about,
Yeah.
that's actually what these squirrels do to this young girl as well. So as soon as they see her, they come out of, these 20 odd squirrels just come out of nowhere and just descend on her. And but it's really sweet. And she was telling me how sort of they started burying their nuts in September in
Hmm.
sort of anticipation. They're so in sync with nature that
Yeah.
actually they knew a cold winter was coming. So we've had snow here in a few weeks ago, and
Oh,
it has been pretty cold. But she knew that young girl knew like 2 3 months beforehand, because the squirrels knew.
yeah,
They're,
they knew.
they're so in sync with nature. So yeah.
There was a huge snowstorm here, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, maybe longer, I don't know. But the news um had what happened, what was observed is that the animals in Lincoln Park Zoo were eating less food and saving food
Yes.
naturally
Yeah.
before anyone knew that there was any snow in the forecast.
Yeah.
And and when the snow came, the zookeepers realized when they saw the forecast and stuff, the zookeepers realized that the animals knew before the meteorologists.
It's
And this is why I recently posted something that said truth is the authority. Authority is not the truth. You'd look to the meteorologist as the authority, but the animals know what the truth is.
absolutely. And I read that as well.
Yeah,
I read that email. It was great. Thank you.
yeah. So yeah, as we're going through, do you have a number for me
I do
today?
indeed. Yes. So I mean, it's, number 39, please.
39. Let's go to 39. Okay, 39 is entitled Unity. Oh, and this one is a little long, so we'll read it quickly.
Okay.
Unity is the standard. When achieved, all things are harmonious. Heaven achieved it through purity, planets achieved it through solidity, beings achieved it through purpose or life. Generation after generation, every individual being finds their own unity, their own harmony. If heaven were to lose its purity, so too its union with the planets. If planets were to lose their solidity, so too their union with beings. If beings were to lose their purpose, without unity, all things would perish and decay. The master honors everything in every form. She knows there is nothing between the highest and the lowest. Differentiating, we lose touch with unity. Always adjusting to find unity, the master lets herself be lived, constantly being renewed and shaped by Tao, rugged and full of resolve.
Wow, there is a lot there.
Yeah. So do you have any thoughts about like the overarching message here?
The it, it, what what popped into my head was actually being in be being in connection with nature is what
Mm-hmm.
and animals are just connected to the Tao because that is the way they live. And yeah, that's what came across to me, is that unity is being connected to everything,
Yeah.
and nature, and everything around us, and embracing that.
The line that really like speaks to that, and I think the line that really explains this one. Now, of course, heaven is connected to the planets are connected to the beings, and the beings are connected to life as we understand it. And so all of those things, like without one, we can't have the other.
Yes.
And but it's this line that's after all of that that really kind of like is that ding is the ringing of the bell. Even though it's like that's the construction of the bell. This is like, okay, all of these things. Now, the master honors everything in every form. That's saying, like, us as beings, the master as the planet honors everything in every form. Heaven honors everything in every form. The master in life honors everything in every form. So the master honors everything in every form. She knows there is nothing between the highest and the lowest.
We're all equal.
Yep. Differentiating, we lose touch with unity. That is such like I got goosebumps. Like differentiating, we lose touch with unity. I was talking earlier about like being in that men's group when everybody was naming bears and all of the big animals and all that stuff, and I was like squirrel. And the thing is before even for me, like I was differentiating. I was saying, oh, you guys want this, and so I'm going to want something else.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, and so even I was differentiating and I was losing touch with the group. And it's true because I was, in my mind, differentiating. But then it inspired me to actually find truth. But that wasn't me, right? That was everything.
It's interesting, isn't it? In some ways, in that group, you were trying to be the rebel,
Yep.
and in being the rebel, you were differentiating yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, yeah,
Yeah, and that's a complex thing, right? That's
yeah.
how complex Tao is. That's why we can't talk about it. That's why in the first verse it says you can't use words to talk about this. Because really what's happening is like I am continuing to be inspired, and I think I have a why. I think I have a why do I feel this way? I feel this way because you people are doing this. Well, I'm going to pick a squirrel. And then
Yeah,
I realize that it's like if I were to have just been present, I would have probably picked a squirrel anyway, and it wouldn't have had any discord involved in it.
absolutely. It wouldn't have had any emotional impact, in that you wouldn't have. You're not trying to pick a position or a side, or
Right.
you're just doing what comes naturally to you, without um, any expectation on it, or
Right. This
or
continues in the last lines. Always adjusting to find unity, the master lets herself be lived. And if I were to have let myself be lived, and we can't say that I didn't let myself be lived, I only created I created the discord in me and the disgust for everybody like wanting to be the same.
Hmm.
Yeah, I created that. And I was still being lived by Tao and just coming up with all of these pretend ideas of what the world was doing around me. And if I would just have been able to release all of that and allow myself to be lived, I would have found squirrel anyway. Constantly being renewed and shaped by Tao, rugged and full of resolve. I was not full of resolve on that day. That day, I was full of angst and I was full of rebellion, and that put me in a position to want to be better than. And that broke my ability to be in union.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if this relates because I don't want to go off track, but what really, what you were talking about earlier, when you let the muddy water settle, the
Mm-hmm.
inspired action comes forth,
Yeah.
and I think when you let the muddy water settle, you lose that judgment, and yeah, and it's just when picking up. So it seems like a silly example, but
No?
it's just I guess it's with when you're making any decision in life. It's whether you feel it's being judged or not, or whether you feel it's a reflection on you. And
Mm.
if you're actually coming from the Tao, you don't care about those things.
Right.
Yeah, and
If
you
you
can,
if you if you can let go of your attachment
yeah,
to your identity,
yes,
and that's what we were talking about in both 3 and 13 as well. Like your attachment to that which you think is yours. It's not yours. This is why the master allows herself to be lived while just observing the life that's being that's unfolding.
yes, yeah. Oh, that's great, Martin John.
Well, I'm glad.
Thank you very.
I'm glad we got to do this one.
Yeah, thank you. That's given me lots to think about. I hope you have a lovely festive season. However you celebrate it, and yeah, I look for and thank you very much for holding this space and for doing this work.
Oh,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you, Johnny. It's always such a pleasure to have you on, and our conversations are always beautiful, and I'm grateful that even talking about that squirrel incident and other things like that, how it all connects, and so that's beautiful. Oh, Cece's gonna join me. I'm so glad. It's been a while since we've chatted.
Good morning.
How are you, Cece? How are you
I'm,
doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I am well. I am well. We're coming. I'm in Virginia at the moment. I got
Nice.
out of Chicago, and there's like a big storm going on over there right now. So
Oh, wow.
grateful to be here, and
Right.
looking forward to getting back to the snow and cold next week.
And your new home, that's pretty
And my new
awesome.
home, that is a
Look,
big, like
mm-hmm.
we'll see how she stands up to the storm, and we're gonna, we're learning about each other. One of the things that I did, and I'm proud of this, and I don't know if I've spoken about this on here or not, but one of the things that I've done in my house is remove all of the unnecessary cables and wires that
Yeah.
are like throughout the house, like there have been many like renters and other stuff, and there's cables that are in the crawl space, there's cables that are outside of the house, there are cables that are in the walls, and I'm just pulling them all out because I feel like it's just like old energy, and it feels
Yes.
like removing a thorn from the palm from the paw of a lion, right? Like it's like, oh, like I can breathe now, like all of this stuff isn't, I'm not being burdened by all this wire, by all these
Right.
boxes, by all this, like, like I'm not gonna have a landline phone ever again. Like, I
Right.
can remove these wires, you know? In doing that, I did cut and remove some wire that connected my thermostat to my furnace that I had to reattach. But other than that, all of my that was the only incident, and I'm still pulling wire out. It's kind of like, when you start clearing out your house, you start realizing that you have shit from fucking like 1983. Like, how do I have this receipt? Like why is this still bringing energy into my life? Let's clean this out. And I'm still
Yes,
working on it, but it's
I
uh
love
it's
it.
uh it's all a work in progress, and I'm grateful for the relationship that I'm building with the house.
Love it.
Yeah.
Congratulations, and I look forward to visiting you again in Chicago in your new home. I've just
Yes,
invited
yes.
myself
I'm
over.
I'm I'm well, you are invited. I'm going to be doing, like, I got space. I got like an acre of land, and I got beautiful
Wonderful.
trees, and yeah, so there is space, and there are beds for you to sleep in.
Beautiful. Well, that
Yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah.
After all the snow and stuff passes.
Yeah. We have beautiful summers, and autumn, and springs and stuff. So
Great.
you'll definitely come up, and we'll spend some time together.
Yeah, it sounds great. Is it like a New York City summer? Like real hot and kind of stinky. That's how
It's
New
not
York
stinky.
City
Well,
summers are.
I'm in Hammond, so I'm south of Chicago. Like, we're really close to the lake.
Right.
I don't know what access to the lake looks like from where I am, but yeah, it can get hot. Uh,
Yeah.
I I I don't know. I don't know too much. I mean, I've been to New York for some summer days, and they haven't been. And I guess they're kind of similar, but it's not stinky. We don't put our garbage. We don't. We're not gross like like
Like
like
New
New York.
Yorkers.
Sorry, like New York's kind of gross.
Yeah, it can
We have
be.
we have alleyways and things, and so we keep things under wraps.
Right, gotcha. Yeah, a
Yeah,
little more civilized.
yeah, little bit, little
Well,
bit.
well, thanks for having
But
me up. And I would have joined you right after Julie. I just thought you were wrapping up too. So I'm
oh,
glad to
no,
be
no,
here.
no! I'm always open. I'm always open to receive. So, what you got a number?
Yes, 19, please.
19. Let's go to number 19. 19 is entitled Real Education. Don't aspire to be holy or smart. You will finally find happiness. Don't inquire about morality or justice, and you will finally be perfect. Don't create things in order to profit. You will finally be secure. If all that fails to inspire you, stay as humble and simple as possible, and at least you won't be selfish.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Very nice and simple, actually, all together.
yeah. I this one really does, for what I know of you, it really does align. Like, don't
Yes,
aspire to
for
be
sure.
holy or smart. Just be you, and you'll
Yes.
finally find happiness. It's in the aspiring to be something other than you are that kind of
Right.
wrecks you of your happiness.
And then that leads to like comparison. Like, am I
Right?
doing what others are doing? And if not, I'm not good enough, and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I like the simplicity of it. Yes. Thank
Hmm.
you. Beautiful.
Don't
What about you?
inquire to be. Well, go on.
I was just gonna say, just such a beautiful, simple message for
Yeah.
this morning.
Don't inquire to be. Don't inquire about morality or justice, and you will finally be perfect. Like that for me. Like we all want to be right, or we all want to do the right thing, or we all want, but like, if you don't ask, we've been talking about like animals today a little bit. We were talking
Right.
about
I love
animals
squirrels
being,
too.
yeah, They just like, they're planting forests. And
Right.
and the thing is when they're doing that from a state of self-preservation. They're like, I am going to save this for later. That's their intent. But what they do, and this is why I always talk to people about, look, you have to be the most important thing. And if you do, you are going to plant a forest
Right.
inadvertently. And this isn't about being selfish. This is about, like, don't inquire about what the right thing is to do, because as soon as you start to do the right thing, as I was talking about earlier, it's only the right thing in as far as you can comprehend. And you can only comprehend a little bit of what really is true. And so when you get away from morality and justice and start to really just be you, you will finally be perfect, just as you are.
Right. Can I just tell you how I got or came or wanted or requested number 19?
Please, yeah.
So today is night number 200. Wait, what number? 14, 56. Wait, did I say 19 or 16?
You said 19.
Oh, that's interesting. So that message really has, I have to say, is for me, because what I meant to do was add up the numbers for the night of kudos, which is number 268. So I meant to say 16, but in my head I
Wow.
kept saying 19. And so I didn't realize that I just said 19. I meant to say 16, but I kept thinking 19. So that 19 is.
This is definitely for you. You know, it's interesting. What happened to me this week, I was driving from my Indiana home to my mom's in her car, because I don't have a car right now, and so I've been borrowing hers. And before I came to Virginia, the whole time I was like, I'm leaving on Tuesday the 21st. I'm leaving on Tuesday the 21st. And so on Monday, the 18th, or 19th or whatever, on the Monday the 19th, I started driving out to my mom's, and the car broke down halfway between my house and hers. So 30 miles out and 30 miles to go. And what ended up happening was I called my mom and was like, okay, we're going to get a tow truck, okay, this is all what's going to happen. But I was able to get picked up by her husband because he was off of work that day. But I thought I was going to leave the next morning. I wasn't going to leave until Wednesday.
Right.
And so it just all worked out in this like kismet way for me to like not only be safe and have help and all of that, but to have the experience that was just like this. It's like, I know what I want. I know what I want. I know what I want. And then it just comes up what you need and what you're
Right.
supposed to say and what you're supposed to hear.
Right. And what's interesting is I wanted to do that number, but also I feel the message is like related to that anyway, for
Right.
me doing that, like kudos is like, coming on, being myself, sharing a bit of my story as I'm, celebrating others.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, it's not like I had to do this whole big production to do that, I just decided to make a move, and
That's right. I
here we
remember when you
are.
made that move. I was
Yeah.
so proud. It was such a
Thank
beautiful
you.
day to see
Yeah,
that.
thank you so
And
much.
like what's interesting is this last line in this first section, don't create things in order to profit and you will finally be secure. And I feel like that's the message of kudos. Like you didn't create this to do something specific,
No.
to create something specific. You did it to make a move. You
Yep.
did it because you were
Exactly.
inspired to do it, and you will finally be secure. And talk to me about how secure you feel in who you are.
Oh my gosh, like I keep saying it's like the best year of my life thus far, and that's
Yeah.
because of, the moves that I made, and how secure, yes, and confidence and all of that, courage, things that I feel like I did not, really have or was aware of
Right.
before.
And that's you like just getting to yourself.
Right.
being who you are, recovering all of that you had, you know, like that you always had within you,
Right.
and you just had to trust
That's my
that
big
that was
word of this
there.
year too.
Yeah,
Trust.
such a
That's
beautiful way of looking at this year.
yes,
And then
because when go
go
ahead.
on, please.
I was going to say, like, I've been sharing a lot of my story because of, like, reflecting on the past year. But this is the first year that I can say I absolutely lived in trust and
Yeah.
faith that all is well. Because, I really had to look back and say, even when I wasn't taking really great care of myself, all was well then too, you know?
Yeah.
And now
That's
that
right.
I'm intentionally, I'm aware of what I'm doing and just living more in love and joy, of course things are even like way better,
Yeah.
all is well.
And that's the thing, like not trying to be something for anyone else,
Right.
right? Not aspiring to be holy or smart, not trying to be moral or just, not trying to create something in simply in order to profit. You get to find yourself. You get to be secure. You get to finally feel perfect as you are. And then realize that even when you thought you weren't, you were.
Absolutely.
This one
Beautiful
wraps up
message.
in this beautiful way of being like, if all of that fails to inspire you, stay as humble and simple as possible, and at least you won't be selfish. You know,
Yeah.
and that's the
And I think,
thing. Like when you allow yourself to just be humble and simple, and allow yourself to just move, do this thing without any proof that it's going to give you anything.
right. Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's so wonderful to have you on. I appreciate it. And I'm glad you picked 19. I love 16, but I'm glad you picked 19 and we got to go through it, cuz that 19 is like you and your relationship to this year and
Yes,
kudos and all that you do.
for sure.
And
Absolutely.
it's just kind of a tip of the hat going, Cece, you're on the right path. Keep it up.
Yes, yes, for sure. It's always nice to get that confirmation.
It is. I've been getting it a lot
Absolutely.
lately. Like
Oh,
every time I look,
nice.
like there's you know duplicate numbers, duplicate like the universe is speaking to us
Oh, yeah, all the time.
all the time.
And it has always been. I've just never, was able.
If you want to land that, you can come back up, but I understand, and it's such a beautiful. Yeah, you are good. It is. And I think it's been speaking to a lot of people right now, and I think
Right.
people are waking up to seeing it. Go on.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I'm just so grateful to be here um, in this place with all of you and
Mm,
this past year and this journey has been so amazing, but I have to say even more incredible in the past year, having found the Wisdom app with all of you amazing beings. Getting to meet you in person and
oh
10
yeah.
other members of the community. So yeah, never did I imagine when I came on in December of last year, because I was like, what's going on here? Who are all these cool, incredible people, and not realizing I was one too.
You absolutely
Um,
are.
and now, yeah, I could not have imagined this adventure that I was on this year. So
Yeah.
thank you for being such a part of it too.
Oh, I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have been a part of it, and I'm super
Yes.
grateful that you have been a part of mine as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Love you.
You as well. Love you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye bye. Okay. Um, if anybody wants to step up, you can. Otherwise, I am going to sign out. I'm Martin John, the recovery mentor. Thank you so much to everyone that joined me, Julie, Johnny, Cece, and Kim for picking number 3 and starting us off. I'm super grateful for each and every one of you that listen and that appreciate what the Tao says. I have been. Today we have been reading my version of the Tao Te Ching, and I haven't really made moves on publishing this yet, but that will happen as I am inspired to do that. And then there's going to be an app and an Oracle deck and all sorts of stuff, and it's fun, and I love all that I do here, and so I'm super grateful to be here and to continue presenting this on wisdom. And if you benefit from the work that I do here, if you like what I'm saying, I always accept and receive tips through Venmo at martinjohn_Garcia, or you can do it through the link in my profile at Linktree. Thank you so much once again from Martin John and all that I am doing. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.